Dr. Cooney Horvath, the author of The Digital Delusion, says education technology, or ed tech, can weaken learning. He joins us now to explain what science really shows. Thank you so much for coming on the show and joining us today.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So let's just start with the big picture here first. What's the core warning that you're making about ed tech?
It's since tech kind of got into schools really heavily around 2010, we've seen scores across the board drop. And this isn't just the US. This is every country we've looked at, every grade we've looked at. So literacy, numeracy, creativity, critical thinking, even general IQ, they are all going down as tech use goes up in schools. So we're worried now that maybe tech isn't the best thing for learning.
Doctor, we often hear that schools say that technology is preparing kids for the future. We live in a technological world, of course. What does science actually say about screen time and the impact on learning?
It's interesting when you take a look at kind of that idea of because the workforce is tech, we need more tech. Believe it or not, if you teach somebody to use a tool like a computer, they will be able to use that tool, but very little else. But when we teach human beings how to think and learn, and that's what a general K through 12 education always did, then they're able to adapt to any tool that comes their way. So when we look at the data, so from 2013 to 2023, the percentage of kids who are digitally literate has dropped across the US by about 25%. But the percentage of kids who use a computer every single day at school has risen about 550%. And so as our expenditure has gone up $6 billion as well. So we're spending more money, spending more time on these tools, yet kids are learning less about them and can't use them as well. So this is just a big sign that we need to kind of rethink traditional education, go back to deep thinking, deep learning, and that will then help us use technology as we grow older, rather than shoving kindergartners in front of a screen and hoping that'll do anything.
What happens in the brain when students are learning through screens instead of hands-on or face-to-face instruction?
Yeah, one of the biggest learning drivers we have is what's called empathy. Basically, when a student and a teacher empathize, they will begin to resonate with one another. Their brains will start to mirror one another, and that's a great driver of learning. When we put a screen between a teacher and a student, all that resonance goes away, and one of the biggest biological drivers of learning is now gone. So this is where we start to realize, for 150,000 years, man has evolved to learn from man. Human learning is a deeply humanistic process, and we're starting to see that the more we put screens in, we're just cutting out that humanistic ability, and a lot of that learning goes with it.
Doctor, I'm sitting here thinking, how do you find this balance? We talked about us living in a world that is so fast-paced with technology at the moment. How do you strike that balance with the age of the student, how much technology they're exposed to in the classroom versus at home? What's that middle point there? What does that look like?
I think you can make a very good case that primary year students don't need any of this stuff. As we get into middle and high school, that's when maybe we want to consider this. And just two things to remember is, one, that's where we bring back the computer lab. We still have computers in school. It's just we put them in a very specific place, and teachers have to be very deliberate when they use them. So rather than everyone has it, there's now a system in place for it. And I think the other thing to remember is the difference between curriculum and pedagogy. Curriculum is what we teach. Pedagogy is how we teach. So we can say, yeah, we want to teach computer skills, that's a curriculum question, without then demanding every skill now needs to be taught through a computer, like math and reading. That's a pedagogical question. So long as we keep kind of our mind clear on that, I think we can find that sweet spot of we can still teach about tech without needing to teach through tech all the time.
Good balance there, yes. So Dr. Horvath, we have to talk about your book. It's called The Digital Delusion. Where can people find it to learn more?
It's beautiful. Yeah, if you're into these kind of concepts and ideas, it's available in any bookstore and on Amazon right now. And it goes through all these key kind of data points. What has the data been showing us when we bring tech into school? And more importantly, it looks at the mechanisms too. Why? What is going on in the brain biologically that's causing this shift? And then hopefully the last couple chapters give you good tools to push back as a family. What can we do in the home? What can we do in the classroom? How can we help our principals and teachers kind of push back as well?